Hey, everybody, welcome back to Chit Chat, a Switchboard podcast. We're so thankful to have you here, have you listening. Thanks for joining along. I just got done recording a really fun podcast with my friend Dan Watson. I've known Dan for a long time. Dan is a consummate entrepreneur. He's got it in his blood, and he's just a really, really neat guy running a really cool business right now with his best friend. The company is called Pillbox Bats. You should absolutely go check them out and have fun listening to this podcast where we talk about all things entrepreneurship, growing a business, and kind of doing something special and doing something different with your life. All right, without further ado, here's my friend Dan. Okay, well, Dan, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it so much. As you know, since you're one of the first guests, this is a new podcast. And the goal is I want to have conversations with fun people doing interesting, fun, cool things in Central Minnesota. And you fit the bill in every regard of that. And so would you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, and kind of what you're up to right now?
Yeah, first of all, I'm honored to be here. This is great. And especially to be considered an interesting person. That's also kind of cool. But so my name is Dan Watson. I am the owner, and the co-founder of Pillbox Bat Company. That company is located in Winona, Minnesota, but I live here in St. Cloud, actually just a couple houses down from you. So
we're neighbors.
So I have a family of 3 kids, beautiful wife, and
hey, Jess,
what up? Love you, babe. I know she's gonna listen to this.
It's good.
And we moved here 2006 to St. Cloud area. That was
What brought you here?
So I had just gotten out of active duty military. I was stationed in Savannah, Georgia, with the 3rd Infantry Division, and my wife had just graduated. She had graduated a year before that from nursing school. Had a job at St. Cloud Hospital. Since she had a job, I didn't. We moved here, and I started to figure my life out, and we also had a baby on the way. So that's kind of what brought us here.
Wonderful. In a second, I just want you to unpack a little bit more about your military service. Tell us what you did and kind of where you were. But as we're doing that, could I pour us a little cup of coffee?
Please.
All right, we're gonna drink. This is a pour over from Colombia. This is kind of almondy, little cherry notes on it.
Ooh,
and
sounds delicious.
I think you had said oat milk, so here's a little oat milk if you so choose.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Do you know pour over? Are you like enough of a coffee guy? You kind of know what a pour over is? Yeah, good. All right. Wonderful. Well, cheers.
I dig.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Okay. Well, maybe we'll jump into some of your entrepreneurship stuff, but maybe will you just tell us a little bit about what branch of the military were you in, and where were you?
Yeah. So I was in the Army. I joined the Army shortly after 9/11. That was part of the reason that took me there.
9/11 was a piece of it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and I was just looking for adventure. And to be kind of honest, I got more than I bargained for in that whole deal. But, I was young, ignorant, and was just like, hey, I'm going to join the Army. So
how old were you when you joined?
I was 22, I believe.
Okay.
Somewhere around 21, 22.
All right.
So I had 2 years of college under my belt at Northwestern Bible College in St. Paul, and then joined the Army after 9/11. 2 weeks after basic training, I was deployed to Iraq for my first time. So I was in the infantry. That was my job. So, front lines, essentially. And that was during the initial assault on Iraq. So we were the first ones in the country, and first ones for a lot of things during that whole deal. So.
I think you were maybe the first and only person that I have ever had this conversation with, but would you just unpack here a little bit, just from your first tour to your second tour, the things that changed? I remember you talking about where you slept, even in comparison to the first time.
Oh, sure. When I was over there. Yeah, definitely. So, my first time over there, we were constantly on the move, right? So you probably, if you were watching the news at that time, saw soldiers sleeping in holes, sleeping on top of vehicles. That was me. Like that was exactly what I was doing. Later on in the deployment, we kind of occupied abandoned buildings, most of which were bombed buildings. So there were holes in the walls and the ceilings and all that kind of stuff. But it was, walls around us.
Right.
I actually stayed at, I called home for a while, the museum in Baghdad, which is a huge monument. It's a beautiful structure and compound, really. Compound, that might be the wrong word, but it's a big complex of a museum. And the big headline for that was how it got looted.
Oh.
Which is really sad because, I mean, if you think about where Iraq is located in the world and the artifacts that they probably held, I mean, go way back. So, but yeah, I called that place home for quite a while. And
then your second deployment, like how different was like kind of your living conditions and what you had available to you? And
yeah, so my job was slightly different at that time. I was still in the infantry, but I was a sniper, actually. I had gone to sniper school, graduated, and started working with a new group of guys. Smaller group.
Yeah.
Bigger responsibility, I would say.
Yeah. But didn't you say like by the time you were there the second time, like there were stores and like a almost like a Walmart or something?
So so my second time over there, we were in a different part of the country. But yeah, some of the bigger bases had like a PX store where you could get, I mean, if you wanted your own cereal and milk for breakfast, you could go to the store and pick it up. There was a Pizza Hut and a couple other stores. I don't remember. I didn't get to visit them very often. That was not available where I was at. But we would go there for some time off and grab a pizza, a haircut,
right,
a shower. So,
well, sweet. Dan, thanks for your service. We have our freedoms in this country in large part because of you and the men and women you served with. So thanks a lot for
that was my honor
for your service. Appreciate it a lot.
My honor. Thank you.
All right. So you got done with the military.
Yep.
Jess had a job. You guys ended up back in St. Cloud.
Yep.
And then what came next for you guys? Other than having Paisley?
Yeah, we had Paisley. New parents. Jess was working at the hospital as a nurse, and I went back to school. Originally, went back to school for law enforcement, trying to continue to do somewhat what I was doing in the military. I loved what I did. I just didn't want to get deployed anymore. That was essentially. But then decided that I wanted to not put myself in those situations anymore, having a young daughter and kind of rethinking life and how I do it. Decided to go down a different road, which was eventually went down the road of business and schooling for that. So, started off doing all kinds of different things and just trying to figure out where I'm going to put my passion into. But, that's kind of where we were at when we first got here to central Minnesota anyway. So,
I mean, that's kind of a fun and I think super common part of the entrepreneurial story of just like, I knew I wanted to be my own boss and I didn't really know what I was necessarily good at yet, but like, if I just work hard and I just keep swimming, we'll figure out where we're going here.
Definitely. Yeah, and I was actually just talking about this with my son last night, how entrepreneurship has been like, I can't think of a generation on either my mom's side or my dad's side that wasn't an entrepreneur. And so we were talking, I was like, well, I was asking him like what he's interested in and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what, to be honest, you're probably going to be an entrepreneur because that's what we all do anyway, It just kind
It's in your blood.
It just kind of creeps up on you and you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's what happened. That's kind of how it kind of just struck me. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So
it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Dan runs a company called Pillbox Bats, which I think is one of the funnest and coolest companies in Minnesota. You guys are doing such fun stuff. Beautiful, beautiful work. Would you just tell us a little bit about what Pillbox Bats does,
Yeah.
and how you make metal Little League bats. And no, I'm just kidding. And and maybe just like tell us like kind of how you started and yeah.
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, and I love the story because it's fun. It goes actually all the way back to when I was a kid, 12 years old. Me and my best friend Zach, just tooling around in the backyard. We would make baseball bats with our pocket knives, and then use household paint them. We'd give them even names like just fun names, and then we do home run derbies in the backyard with them. So we had just a bunch of different styles, looks to these bats, but we'd make them all with our pocket knives and hit and launch,
Dingers.
of course, yeah, all day. But yeah, racket balls, tennis balls, baseballs, whatever we get our hands on. Sometimes a golf ball. That was a mistake you only make once. But yeah, that's how I guess the concept of Pillbox started, where it kind of was, the idea was birthed from. But fast forward a bunch of years, Zach went on to school as art and education. And so he got not only just formally schooled in artistry, but he'd been an artist our whole lives. I mean, we have 2 bats that we made when we were 12 in our shop, and you can clearly see which one's his and which one's mine. His is way cooler looking than mine was. But so yeah, and then he went on to start a company called Sanborn Canoe Company, which is another really cool company down in Winona. And they really kind of put themselves on the map with painted paddles. And
Wood, super pretty.
oh yeah, they did performance paddles, but then just more of like the decorative painted paddles and stuff like that you put in your cabin or whatever. But then one day he was like, I don't know if he was thinking of something new, wanted to start a little side hustle, something. He just wanted to paint something else. And he called me up. He's like, hey, I'm thinking of doing painted bats. You want to do it with me? Took me like 2 seconds to think about
Yes,
that.
please.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, we did this when we were 12. That'd be awesome. And so we decided right there that we were going to figure it out and give it a go. And both of us having our own entrepreneurial ventures at that time, separate from each other. And we'd kind of always been curious about like, what can we do together? So that is what it was. And it's been a really fun ride.
Yeah. And just, for those of you guys that have, don't really know what Pillbox is or what they look like, just imagine like really classic, like wood baseball bats. It's like a what you think of just like a Louisville Slugger kind of style bat.
Yep.
That is just really expertly painted. Even the really simple ones where they just have like a single stripe or, like really simple stripes and stuff. You just look at it and you're like, oh, this is so well done. The lines are so clean. They're so crisp. And then all the way up from just like really basic patterns and stuff on bats to like unbelievable like portraiture that's hand painted onto the bats with gold leaf and like just exquisite works of art, one of a kind bats. But they're really special and really cool.
We make all of our bats down in Winona, Minnesota. So we turn them down there. We design them, hand paint them. We do a lot of laser engraving work, and we do a lot of custom work too. So we've definitely upgraded our skill level since we were 12, but it's same concept, which is really fun.
Was Major League Baseball a client when you were 12, or is that new?
I think they had their eye on us, but we hadn't quite gotten there yet. But
What so I know that you guys make tons of like, what it's not called, what's the merch called that's like meant for teams? It's licensed. Is licensed the word?
yes.
So like you guys make lots of licensed bats where you can actually use all of the logos and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's a relationship with MLB. Like that seems crazy. Like how do you go about getting a license, getting licensure with MLB?
That was hard.
Yeah.
It took me 3 years of basically not accepting no.
Yeah.
And just trying and asking and meeting people that eventually led me to another person that led me to another person that got me to the decision maker, but all while we were building our brand and
Kind of proving it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Proving the concept as much as we could.
Yep.
But we were 2 years ago. We were told that by the license holder, the manager of the license, that we were 100%. We were getting the license, and then 2 months later, Major League Baseball said no, and it was because Louisville Slugger had held that license exclusively and had for decades, probably since I was a kid, honestly. And then later that year, right before the World Series, Major League Baseball called us up and said, "It's yours if you want it." And
Yes, please.
it's exactly what I said. That's exactly. I think I said it that fast too.
Yeah.
We've had licensing with Major League Baseball. We are currently, as far as I know, we are the only company in the world that can put a Major League Baseball logo on a wooden baseball bat, full-size wooden baseball bat.
Yeah. That's super, super fun. It's really, really cool.
It's wild. It's afforded some really cool opportunities.
Yeah.
Which I particularly love because it's usually around Major League Baseball teams.
If you're listening to the podcast right now, you should actually pause and you should go to www.pillboxbats.com.
Pillboxbatco.
Batco, my bad. Batco.com. You should go just like take a gander at how fun this stuff is. It's really, really special.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back after having just, see what I did there? I assumed that they all paused, right?
That was good. That was good.
Anyway, yeah, this stuff is so cool. And it's been fun to, I remember the first time you told me about bats and I was like, okay,
All right.
cool. I mean, sounds fun and sounds neat. I had no clue that it could be this fun and cool. And
So did I, because honestly, when I started it, I thought it was just going to be coffee money, like just a little side hustle from when I was, something to kind of just bring me and my best friend together.
Worth it.
Yeah, totally. But it turned quickly and required more of our time. And now it's literally all we do.
Yep.
Which is a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Super fun. And I mean, this is no secret to you, and I'm just gonna say it right now, which is not good as we're heading into baseball season. I'm not a big baseball guy, right? I know. I don't quite get it. What everyone tells me is that it's a thinking man's game, which is, I think, supposed to make me feel like an idiot, which it doesn't because I've watched it, and there's no chance that that's a thinking man game. I'm sorry. Don't turn off the podcast. No, but one of my favorite things about baseball is the nostalgia of it. I love that it's old. I love that grandpas throw baseballs to their grandsons and granddaughter. It's just this thing that kind of like crosses generational lines. And so I love the nostalgia of it. I love the smell of a ballpark. So even though I don't love the game of baseball, being at a stadium is so much fun.
Yeah.
Outside, Target Field, where the Twins play.
Yep.
I think it's on the left field side. No, maybe the right field side. You have a view of downtown.
Yeah.
So you get to sit and watch baseball, which is fine, I guess, on a beautiful summer night. And maybe your son is sitting next to you eating a hot dog and there's a crack of a bat and the din and cheer and you're watching the sunset by the towers. It's incredible.
You just painted the most beautiful picture in my mind.
Undeniably great.
Yes.
Undeniably great.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a fan of baseball, like you said.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, I describe baseball as the most romantic sport.
Sure.
Because of the nostalgia, because of the how hard, you're hitting players are hitting a round ball with a round bat and you're supposed to hit it square and moving out. Yeah. And the ball's moving 100 miles an hour. And then it's got to land in a place where nobody catches it.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me. I think, there's so many stories around baseball that are just so crazy, from Babe Ruth calling his shot and doing it, and to just some of the great players that have inspired young kids to pick up a ball and bat and play games, and those kids pretending to be their heroes.
Yeah,
it's just I love that, and we try and encapsulate a lot of that in what we do and tell those stories through the art of our bats.
Yeah, that's really fun. I mean, you have at least some sort of connection to MLB. Could I interest you in maybe making a phone call? What about 4 innings and 60 games rather than 9 innings and 162 games? Could we work towards that a little bit?
I mean, I don't know why we would.
Oh, right. Okay, got it. Well,
but for you, no.
All right. It's good. How many games do you try to get to? And are you a Twins guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
All
a
right.
Twins fan. These days.
You grew up so close to Wisconsin.
I know.
And so like, is the river really like, is it definitive? Like if you're living on this side of the river, you're for sure Minnesota?
Yeah. See, I was a bit of an odd so my dad grew up in Illinois
Okay.
and raised me
White
a
Sox
football
or-
fan. Well, he was a White Sox fan growing up. And
South
so
side, right? Is that South side?
Yep. South side Chicago.
I know a little bit about baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. So he raised me to like love Chicago sports.
Sure.
So for basketball, I was a Chicago Bulls fan. For football,
Was there any other reason through the 90s to
No,
be a Chicago Bulls fan?
Right. Yeah. It was easy in the 90s for sure. But I was also a Bears fan for football.
Okay.
But for baseball, I was a Twins fan, mainly because we ended up having a player who played in the minor league system for the Twins attend our church.
Really?
He went to Winona State University, attended our church, and became really good friends of my family. And we ended up going and watching him in spring training.
And when you're a kid, you're hooked.
For
I know
sure.
that guy on the field.
Yeah, he gave me his
an-
hat from
yeah.
when he played for, this team doesn't even exist in the minor leagues, but for the Kenosha Twins. He gave me his hat. I wore it.
Do you still have that?
No, I wore it straight out.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's better than still having it.
Yeah. So, that's how I became a Twins fan.
Yeah.
And just growing up to the games and Kirby Puckett and pretending to be all my heroes too.
Yeah,
It's
love
fun. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Are you familiar with a creator? He's on YouTube named Jomboy, Jomboy.
Yes.
If Jomboy equaled baseball, baseball would be my favorite sport. He just does these things called a breakdown, and it's like 3 to 5 minutes long, and it's something that happened in a baseball game, and he just like tells you why it's important.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all of the thing that's like actually great about baseball, the nostalgia of it, like all of the history and stuff, and it's like, if you're just watching this thing, to me, it can be boring. But he's like, these guys haven't faced each other in 600 days. And that's because of this kind of thing and this kind of thing and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the last time, this is what happened. And they're both pissed at each other and they're both mad at each other. They're both mad at each other. Just, this whole kind of thing. And so I love that. Like the story of something, like I think it's why I ended up in the career that I am. I love a good story.
Yeah.
And so as this guy for 5 minutes just unpacks why I should care about that, I'm like, yeah, tell me more about that. And then I happen to be like cheering for someone, who happens to be playing baseball.
Yeah,
So
I love
if
those
John Boy was
moments.
baseball would be my favorite sport.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I love those moments though. Like, I feel like you don't get there are plenty of them throughout baseball history, but like, as you were talking, I was like, one recently happened that was just amazing. And I don't need to go into the whole backstory of it, but it was.
Give me the 2-minute version of it.
Yeah. So, World Baseball Classic this last year, the new young stud Shohei Ohtani playing for Japan, pitching in the final game against the United States. 2 outs. I think there were a couple runners on.
And he's a massive superstar here because he plays in the MLB as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely dominant. Two-way player, pitcher, batter.
Highest paid baseball player in the history of the MLB, and there isn't even like a close second.
Correct.
I mean, this new contract that he signed was
Yep. Yeah, it was
unreal.
massive. Yeah. So it's the final inning. I think Japan is up by 1, if I remember correctly. I mean, it goes down to exactly what every kid imagines.
Yeah.
It's the final inning, stud on the mound, stud at the plate. Mike Trout was up to bat. And everybody in the United States is like, Mike Trout, we got this.
This is our
all
guy.
you got to do, one swing, this is over.
Yeah.
But Shohei Ohtani's on the mound, and it comes down full count. I think it goes to full count. So last pitch, 2 outs,
bottom of the ninth.
runners in scoring position. Like baseball titan versus baseball titan.
Yeah.
Shohei throws a sweeper to the outside. And Mike Trout does something he rarely does. He swings and misses. Japan wins the World Classic.
Wow.
And the young stud beats
It's kind of incredible.
I know.
Yeah.
Those moments, it's like, as a fan, those are going to be, whoever watched it's never going to forget it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So nostalgia, baseball, romance, they're all kind of tied together. And
For
you
sure.
get to run a brand that kind of utilizes all of those as marketing tools and weave that into your business. Super fun, super cool. So, I mean, having, started and ran, a number of businesses in your your career, for a young entrepreneur, or maybe they're not even a young entrepreneur, maybe they haven't even they haven't hung their own shingle yet. What kind of advice would you give to a young person that's thinking about a career in business?
Yeah. Find something you love to do.
Yeah.
I'd start there. Find something you love to do, and then find a way to make yourself valuable for that to other people, right? And then just really hone at your craft with it. Just get good, really, really good at something you really like to do, and find a way. And I think it's important to understand as a young entrepreneur, you may not figure out what exactly that little niche is. You might know what you like to do and what you're good at,
right.
But figuring out what it's going to look like when you've honed your craft,
it
can look very different than when you've started. And I think you got to be flexible with that. But I was actually asked this, piece of advice. This is something that has taken me a long ways, especially recently with Pillbox, is being focused when I'm, because I do a lot of selling for Pillbox, creating a win-win.
Yeah.
Right. Making sure that my customer has a win, and so do we.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not as easy as it seems, but that's the attitude I go into every single time I sit down with a potential customer. I'm going to make this a win for you, and we're going to figure out how we can both win here and have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. And
if one of us isn't having fun doing it, then we need to either fix it or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And being okay with both.
So. And I mean, you're 15 plus years into your kind of entrepreneurship journey. Over the years, obviously, there are things that are good and things that are hard. What has been when something hasn't worked for you, what's a lesson that you've learned in, defeat of an idea or failure for some project or something how has, having to overcome something made you better in kind of who you are today?
Oh, I think the difference between people that take up entrepreneurship and people that stick with it are the fact that they stick with it.
Yeah.
They get up and they just keep going.
Yeah.
Someone who's, what is it? I think it was Babe Ruth who said it, is it's hard to beat someone who never quits. And I think that's the difference between people who take up entrepreneurship and don't, and who don't. I think I lost track of what you asked, but that was what
I think that's great. I think it feels like sometimes you could even get in the mindset of thinking about it, or for sure you could maybe kind of end up in it, looking for looking for a job. But I think if you jump into entrepreneurship, you jump into starting your own business, and you're just kind of trying to replace an income somewhere else, I think it's hard to survive long if that's what you're doing, because the first time you get punched in the face, if the only thing I'm looking for here is income, I'll just go get income in a place that feels safer, and I get kicked in the teeth a little less, But I think if for entrepreneurs, there's something else, I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I think there's that feeling sometimes I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to make something. And when those setbacks come, they're almost inconsequential.
For sure.
What do you think about that? Does that
totally.
ring true with what you've kind of experienced?
To me, when I experience a setback, because again, how I define failure only happens if you stop trying. Yeah. Right? Yep. You can't fail if you continue to try.
Yep.
But it's also, to me, and I actually, when I would coach Little League Baseball in Sartell, I would always tell my players, oh man, I almost just lost it. Failure is necessary to know how to win. You have to fail to learn how to win.
Right.
And so it's important to the process. Because nobody, I mean, I can't think of one. I mean, I would bet that you couldn't either, but think of someone who started something and succeeded immediately.
Right.
And succeeded immediately. Their first try, all that. So,
And even if you could think of someone, we all have heard about people getting struck by lightning.
yeah.
And it just because it's happened once doesn't mean that you should spend time trying to recreate that thing.
Exactly.
Like it's just not how it works.
And honestly, like I'm sure it's nice for those that get struck, right?
And win the lottery. And
Yeah. But really I think there's such a sense of like accomplishment when you can look back on your journey as an entrepreneur and you be like, you know what? Life sucked sometimes, but I just kept going and now look where I'm at. There's that sense of accomplishment and you can be proud of what you've done versus someone who got struck is just like, I made it.
Yeah.
But like, I would always look at them. I would look at them and be like, yeah, not quite the journey I love the journey.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm saying what I'm saying is I love just having to gut things out sometimes. And, I think it's important.
I think there's an interesting piece too of like tempered success. Like when something goes really, really great.
Yeah.
Like it is, again, this is kind of felt like this. If something happens and it feels like a massive win, like something really cool, like I can't believe we landed that or that thing came through that we've been working towards. There is this like measured sense of, there's like a tempered nature of that because like I know what the failure, again, the quote unquote failures leading up to that thing felt like. And so I think it helps keep that thing in check. Like I don't think you let yourself like go crazy with a big ego or anything. Cause it's like, I got kicked in the teeth a whole bunch trying to do that thing. And and tomorrow we'll get kicked in the teeth again. And so I don't know, there's something about like those lows help temper those highs. And then the highs kind of make the lows kind of okay. It's like, like, tomorrow's coming and we'll just get them next time. Yeah. If you just keep working.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think that doing something for myself, doing something that I love also really helps. Yeah. Like I've had just throughout the time that I've owned and been working with Pillbox, I've had some really low lows, like really stressful times where I, lost a ton of sleep, was just, it was just really, really hard. But because I love what I do, like I would like getting up and continuing on it just made it so much easier. Like I've told my wife this so many times where I'm just like, I'm so stressed. And then, but I'm like, but I love what I do, and
makes it worth it.
For sure. And I think that's why it's important to figure out what you love to do. And I think to go back to an earlier point that or something you were talking about, entrepreneurs that are trying to create just an income or replace an income, to me, there's a difference between entrepreneurship or owning a business versus creating a job. And I think that if you're in it to just create a job, you're missing out on what entrepreneurship really can offer, which is creating a business and creating jobs for other people. Yeah. And
and joy.
Yeah.
And joy.
Yeah.
Fun. But speaking of team, how many people work for Pillbox? What's your team up to now?
We're 12.
That's cool.
Yeah. Mostly, I think 4 or 5 painters, 2, 3 woodworkers. And then we have some just staff that run, finance stuff like billing and receivables. And Zach, my business partner, he kind of wears a lot of hats because he's also the main artist. And he's also doing a lot of product development and art application development. And then myself, I do business development, which we call it business development because it's not just sales. Like I'm doing all the licensing stuff and all kinds of different business, figuring out new opportunities and stuff like that.
It's cool. Well, Dan, what's next? What's coming? Anything exciting in 2024 for Pillbox as we enter this new baseball season?
Yeah, I'm fired up about 2024. Really, a couple weeks ago we finished up our agreement and have a new vendor number from a company that most people, probably all people, have heard of. And it's very hard to come by a vendor number from Dick's Sporting Goods. But
that's really fun.
We are waiting on our first order from them, and we just finished our agreement with them. So excited to see what that will entail.
Is there a Dick's here in St. Cloud? Is that what's over
Yep.
in Way Park?
Yep.
That'll be fun to show up in just some big national box store and
Yeah.
to see your stuff in there.
I doubt they're going to be like the top of the list of where, because so we'll be on their online store.
Okay.
And then from what I understand, when they test out new brands, they'll start with 30 stores in
Okay.
strategic locations. I'm doubting St. Cloud, Minnesota is one of those strategic locations,
Sure.
but potentially it could. I mean, the possibility's there.
That's cool.
They've got like 800 stores around the
Yeah.
country, so
It's fun.
yeah.
This is on such a smaller scale, but I remember the first time walking through Coburn's and Byerly's into seeing a Kinder coffee bag on the shelf and just
Yeah.
feeling like that's sitting there and I didn't put it there. You know, just like it. And again, the scale of that is so drastically different than being in Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's fun to, see your brand kind of out there in the world.
For sure. I mean, not on top of that, this first quarter, we were able to get our brand in 8 more stadiums throughout Major League Baseball. Now we're in 28 of the 30.
That's cool. Who are the holdouts? Come on.
I know. Boston Red Sox for one.
Okay.
And then Oakland Athletics, which
Why could that be? That Oakland Athletics is kind of behind a little bit on that.
I think because they only have 300 people that come to their games on any given day. Yeah, it's a little rough. But hopefully when they move to Vegas, that'll change. But yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
28 to 30, I'll take it.
It's incredible.
And then we just kind of kick things off with fanatics.com as well. So 2024 is exciting. We've got some other new initiatives that we're doing with teams, as well as some colleges that we're talking to as well. So there's just a lot. And I think there's a lot.
Fun.
So,
Well, sweet. Dan, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it a lot. It's fun to hear kind of your entrepreneurial journey. It's been fun just to be your buddy and watch this kind of like not happen for you, but like watch you kind of, build this and create this.
well, I think that's
with your friend.
Yeah, I think that's that's been a strong connection point for me and with you and as friends is being entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? Like I really enjoy having you as a friend as well and being able to kind of just bounce.
Commiserate?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. And it's been fun to watch you as well.
For sure.
So,
Well, sweet. Okay, Dan, as we get ready to end our show here, this last little segment is called the unpaid advertisement.
perfect.
So this is just like something you love, something that you think is great that you would just love to give a plug for. It could be anything.
Oh, man. I would say that my unpaid ad is a coffee drink that actually I just got turned on to while I was in Belize on vacation with my family.
Let's hear
It's Cortado.
All right.
I love those things. I got one for the first time when I was at this little cafe in Belize.
Yep.
Morning time, sitting on the beach.
Yep.
I tasted it. It was like this perfect
Fun.
balance of like awesome espresso with milk. And I don't know what it was. It was just perfection at the moment. Maybe it was the moment and the place, but I've been drinking them nonstop since.
For our listeners, if you don't know what a cortado is, so it's a latte just with less milk, basically. So a latte is a shot of espresso and 12-ish ounces plus of milk.
Yeah.
And a cortado is just a whole lot less milk.
Yeah.
And so it drinks a little bit more coffee-y.
Yeah, I think that was the difference maker for me. Like when I don't get lattes often because of the
How much milk?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just been. I think I've had one every single day since. So
I love it. Well, you've heard it here first.
There
Maybe
you
go
go.
check out Cortado. My unpaid advertisement for the day. We've got this guy on our team. Love him to death. His name is Josh. Josh is rocking one of the very best mustaches I've ever seen in my entire life. So my unpaid ad today is for this guy. Bing! What a glorious mustache.
it is glorious.
Isn't
it
it?
really is.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much, seriously, for coming on the podcast. We appreciate it. It's fun to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah.
And as fun as this is, it's more fun being your neighbor. So
Love
looking
it.
forward
Same.
to
And it's an honor to be here.
some bike riding this summer. How about?
Heck yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Sweet. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.